Right now on Amplified, the Engineers Journal podcast, we're about to meet the Managing Director of Coffey Group, Odran Madden.
What kind of a person is an engineer? I would say typically they're a well-rounded individual who is attracted to technical issues and likes to solve problems.
Hello there, my name is Dusty Rhodes and you're welcome to the Engineers Ireland podcast, where we're chatting with our community of creative professionals across the country about how engineers are delivering sustainable solutions for society both now and in the future. Today we're finding out more about Coffey, the family-owned firm who over 5 decades have operated in every major construction sector throughout the UK and Ireland. Much of their success is down to the quality, efficiency and a belief in their directly employed workforce. At the helm is a man who has been through the twists and turns of successes of the firm, working in water, wastewater, road, rail, energy and specialist engineering projects. He has seen it all. It's a pleasure to welcome Managing Director Odran Madden. How are you doing, Odran?
Hi Dusty, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
So water, wastewater, road, rail, energy, specialist engineering, that is a long list of stuff you have done. Have you got a favourite project in there?
Yeah, look, it's quite a diverse range of projects, and I think at Coffey, I suppose I've been very lucky that I've been able to touch across a lot of these projects. I started doing a lot of road projects when I started first as a graduate engineer and progressed on to water, and I've done some very interesting projects as well across many sectors. We built a large motorway, the Neenah and Limerick motorway, so that in a joint venture. That was very interesting, very, very challenging as well. We did some very large reservoir projects, water towers, and we also did domestic water metering project for Irish Water, which proved to be quite politically charged and challenging for us as a contractor to try and deliver on the ground. So, yeah, we've had some very interesting projects over the years.
It must be an absolute nightmare working with water, is it?
No, I quite enjoy it. I think it's very technically challenging, but very rewarding as well when you know that you can take some water, wastewater, treat it to a safe and clean standard and give that water out to customers to drink. It's very rewarding in that sense. What
are the biggest difficulties of working with water?
Well, working with water, when you take a raw water source, you don't really know what's in it to start. So you're designing for a standard of water to start and to treat that, and that body of water can change and develop over a period of time. So you have to be quite dynamic in your approach and how you can treat that water on an ongoing basis, and it can be very seasonal as well. Different times of the year will bring different challenges when it comes to water treatment. So yeah, it's quite challenging in terms of how you deal with that.
Have you ever had a situation where you're going, okay, based on my experience, the water should do this, and then the water goes off and does something else?
It can. There's a big program at the moment in terms of water leakage, and we've been doing quite a lot of work with Irish Water on that, and you can repair a section of pipe and think that's great, and then water will just find the next path to put some pressure on and cause problems somewhere else down the network. You can also treat water in a treatment plant, and the water can be perfect leaving the treatment plant, but when it gets down the network, it can cause additional challenges depending on the length of the network and the length of time it's been in the pipe. So,
can you give me an example of one of those challenges?
Yeah, actually, we had been working on a project in Loch Talt for Irish Water, which was on a boil water notice for a long time, and we put in an innovative process to treat the water there. But there were challenges down the network after the treatment because of the length of the network pipe that's there around feeding 12,000 people around County Sligo. So we had to revise some of the treatment procedures there to try and enhance the water quality further down the network.
Tell me about the motorway project that you mentioned in Limerick. That's a huge job. Is that one of the biggest you've tackled?
It is as a single standalone contract. Yes, it is. We were in a joint venture there with 2 other partners. Even the relationships within the joint venture were challenging, as you can imagine. One of those was a European contractor as well. So we also had language barriers and cultural barriers as well as everything else. But yeah, I mean, it was a challenging project in terms of the terrain we were crossing. There was a lot of deep bogs. Definitely a tough project to be on, but it's really, really rewarding when you get through a project like that, and you open that road up and you can see the commuters and the people traveling along that road, and it being a safer environment for them to travel on.
How do you build a motorway across a bog?
In that regard, we piled it actually. We put in lots of up to 3,000 concrete piles. We drove them down through the bog until they hit solid ground. We also did some quite another innovative technique on some of the smaller access roads, the local access roads for farmers and landowners, where we used tire bales. So it's basically tires, and we wrapped them in bales, and we put some geotextile around them and built stone over the top. And so essentially it's a floating road.
What was the reaction when you came up with that idea first? Let's get some tires.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually, I mean, it has been used before, and it goes back to even way back. You'd see the old land commission in the forestry, using old tree logs to line across the bogs. So you just put stone over them, and so the concept of a floating road has been around for forever in Ireland, when we're very used to bogs and having to travel across them. So that concept had been around for a while. Because they're floating, they typically move a little, so it's challenging for a motorway standard road, but for a local access road, it's a great solution.
Would you say the bog was the biggest challenge on that motorway?
Yeah, it definitely was on that one. Yeah, absolutely.
Why did you get involved in this business of engineering in the first place?
I guess I was always into construction. I always liked the concept of construction. I didn't come from a family background of engineers. My father was actually a hotelier, so into hotels. My mother came from North Mayo, and a lot of her brothers, and she had a lot of brothers. They all headed off into construction industries across a lot of them over to the UK. So they were kind of in that, and I guess maybe that's where it came from. But I always liked the idea of construction, seeing things being built, how they were built. And I guess I wanted to just get into that. It was kind of always where I was headed. I never had any doubt. I never had any problem filling out my CAO form or anything like that. So, yeah, it was quite easy for me.
Did you ever have something as a kid where you kind of looked at it and went, I wish I did that?
Things like the Lego and the Meccano and all these kind of things I was absolutely into, Again, during school, maths was always a forte, So I was just that way inclined, I think,
So you're in the engineering business, all right, and you're doing very, very well at it. And now you find yourself in management. How do you go from, kind of the fun side of the business, if you want to put it that way, into management? What happened?
Yeah, it's a kind of a gradual process, to be honest, Dusty, because at Coffey I was very lucky. When you come in at a very young age, you do get to manage aspects of work quite early on in your career, even as a graduate engineer. So you do get to kind of manage, gangs of resources, managing materials, managing aspects of a site. So you progress onto managing a small construction site, onto a larger construction site, and onto a few construction sites at the same time. And it just continues in that way. So it's quite organic. You have that responsibility early on within engineering that you can do that, certainly from a construction point of view, which is where I grew up, if you like, was on sites. I mean, I came out of college. I was in NUIG as a civil engineering student. I did a placement with Coffey on a road, and then I came back as a graduate onto another project, and I've stayed with Coffey obviously ever since throughout my career. So I know the business very well, obviously, but I know the path of progression right from straight through from being a student engineer right up to being a managing director.
So being an engineer and involved in project, you do have to manage people. That's just part of the gig, and it's kind of led you to where you are today. What about CPD, developing your skills along the way?
Yeah, that's an absolutely massive aspect of it, I think, and hugely important in any industry, but particularly engineering and construction. It has evolved so much over the years, and how we do things now is actually very different than how we did it in the past. The technology has advanced so much. IT, I mean, when I started out, we didn't have computers. We didn't, no mobile phones were even brand new. So we used to handwrite everything that time, or we draw sketches out for the people on the ground and that kind of stuff. So it has evolved hugely to a point now where we're using BIM models, and we're going out showing our people with iPads on the ground and showing our workforce what they have to build on screens now. So it's completely changed. Particularly when it comes to water treatment, which is a lot of our business. That has evolved. The technologies have evolved hugely there in that regard. And you think a business like ours, typical construction business. I mean, we have a lot of process engineers, mechanical, electrical. We've environmental scientists, all involved in the process. it becomes quite diverse quite quickly. And CPD is central to that, because you have to understand everything you do as a business, I think, and people have to get better and better and at understanding what they're doing, and education is really important. And again, at Coffey, we promote a lot of that, even in terms of master's programs or further diplomas, or, as well as things, general CPD webinars and the like, with the likes of Engineers Ireland and others.
Let's talk about sustainability in engineering. How important do you think, with the changing world and environment that we're going through, how important is sustainability these days?
It's huge, because in construction we produce a lot of concrete and stone, and we're digging these things out of the ground. So we're having a huge impact on the environment doing the projects we're doing. So to try and positively impact on that through more sustainable methods is very significant, and it's really important that we do that. And again, for us, the whole water cycle is really important, and how we can reuse and recycle that water. And we do that so we can take a wastewater stream and ultimately put it back into a drinking water standard. So that kind of reuse and recycle, and trying to do that more and more also without chemical addition, is quite significant. And general other civil engineering products, I mean, if the likes of concrete has evolved, that we're using more sustainable concrete and things like that on road projects. It's all much more sustainable now than it used to be, making sure that we're catching any of the pollutants that maybe run off from roads, and we're not allowing those to go back into the environment and into the land. That kind of a thing is growing, and I think we're improving as an industry at that quite a lot over the last 20 years, certainly.
And where is this being driven by? Is it being driven by customer demand, or is it being driven by the thoughts and solutions that engineers are coming up with?
I think it's probably a mix. Businesses are always trying to do more and more sustainable things, particularly in more recent years. And I suppose, for businesses' point of view, that's probably a selling point, So people are trying to corner a bit of the market for themselves and come up with some good solutions which customers will want. And I think it's also coming from regulation as well. There's a lot of that from Europe, requiring certain standards that industry must comply with.
Tell me about Coftech.
Yeah, so Coftech is a very interesting business for us. It's something we launched during COVID, actually. We had thoughts and ideas pre-COVID, but it's something we've just launched during COVID. And what it is it's where we design, manufacture and sell wastewater treatment-related technologies. So we're doing so particularly in the modular treatment space. So where we're basically designing and building here in our offices in Athenry and Galway. We can ship them off to wherever customers need them. And we have some various customers in Ireland and the UK for those. And we also, through Irish Water, we're one of our clients, and they have donated with the department 2 water treatment plants out to Ukraine to help with the treatment of water out there. It's a quite interesting market. It's quite technical. Trying to design a water treatment plant in a 40-foot container is essentially what it is. So it's there's definitely an interest out there in the market. It's something that we can build on, and we're offering quite a lot of number of solutions. And water quality monitoring equipment, again, is another aspect of the Coftech business, where we can essentially install systems that allow industry and local authorities and Irish Water to understand the quality of the water they have, and then be able to design more defined treatment plants to treat the quality of the water to get them to the right level they're at. That's something that's becoming quite common now, particularly in industry.
You say that you are building water treatment into essentially a 40-foot container. Is this designed to be like a permanent installation or a temporary one?
So they can be. Essentially, the plants that we've sent out to Ukraine were designed as an emergency water treatment. We modified the specifications slightly to suit the Ukraine, but they can be either. So in industry, we've put them in as permanent, situations where they'll just it's a simple, quick add-on to the back end of a production facility. We've sent 3 units to the Defence Forces as well. So their idea is that they'll mobilise those out to Lebanon or wherever they're mobilising their resources to. So they can be used in both.
It sounds absolutely fascinating that you've seen this problem in the world and you kind of went, okay, we need to design a water treatment plant, and somebody came up with the idea of let's fit it into this space. Walk me through that project. I mean, when somebody has the first idea, what's the first thing that you do then to start developing it?
So once we have an idea or a requirement to do something, we just get our project teams together and We get a bit of brainstorming going and start teasing out ideas. And it's important, again, when we're doing these things, that we have people from the different aspects of our business, from the construction side, the design side, the operation and maintenance side, because we also operate, almost 50 treatment plants around the country. So we have that experience as well. So it's pulling all the right people into a room together and having a brainstorming session, essentially, to try and come up with a design which will work to suit the requirements of customers. The first design is never the final design when it comes to these things. When you're manufacturing something, it will evolve. You will have continuous improvement, which is, again, continuous improvement is something we're all about here at Coffey as well. So it's important that we keep improving everything that we're doing when it comes to these designs.
So do you do a lot of computer modeling?
Yeah, BIM is a huge aspect of our business now, as it will be for most of the businesses in engineering now. So yeah, we have full BIM capability, and we will, when it comes to the likes of the modular treatment plants, they'll be all designed on BIM, particularly when you're talking about clash detection and things like that. So you can know that everything will fit where it should fit. You can get access to everything then in terms of maintenance and operations as well.
And then when you're constructing and putting together your first physical model, surely you're coming up with parts and pieces and ideas that just aren't available in the market that you can just buy off a shelf. How do you construct it and put the whole thing together? Yeah,
so typically when it comes to water treatment, you'll have your overall process. So you'll have a process design, which is the pressure filtration followed by UV disinfection. So they'll be the key components. And then you're just figuring out, well, how you move the water through the system, how you control and automate and manage that. So once you have the key components, everything else is available. I mean, all the things we use are available on the market. We don't typically design things that's not available on the market yet, So these are all typically tried and trusted technologies we're using, and it's just the configuration and how you get the efficient use of space within that small space that you have in a 40-foot container.
And what drove that initial idea of trying to get it into a 40-foot container? Was it something that was happening in the world, or was it just a random idea?
Yeah, no, it is something that's out there. So we're trying to do more and more of that. Plus, the added benefit here is we can build it in a factory environment as opposed to on a site. So when you're building it in a factory environment, your quality is better, your health and safety standards are better. You've got a better opportunity to refine and enhance your design. And it means less traveling around for, construction workers typically travel around. So it means less time traveling the countryside for a lot of our people, which is obviously much, much, much better for them. And a lot of the things we want to try and do is make sure that we can get our people home every day. Is always doesn't always work, of course, in construction, but that's something we like to try and do anyway. So there's just a huge amount of added benefits. Plus, if you're working in a site or in an industrial situation, you're in and out quickly. It's a plug and play type approach. You're in and out quickly. The impact and that you have and the disruption that you have on businesses is small, or on customers is small. So that's important as well. I think that adds value.
Getting away from the coffee business, we'll come back. I'm just kind of thinking about out in the world, things other people have done, or big construction or engineering projects that have impressed you in the last 2-3 years.
I think in the last 2 or 3 years, I think some of the things that have been really impressive. We saw in China at the outset of COVID how they managed to build hospitals in a matter of weeks, which is incredible when you think how long it might take us to do that here. You'd wonder how long had they been planning it in advance, but it's very, very impressive to build hospitals fully kitted out for patients very, very quickly in a quick, short space of time. So that's something that has certainly registered with me, and I think it feeds back into that whole modular construction as well, that off-site fabrication and construction, because that is the way we will build quicker as a society. It'll speed up the construction time, but certainly on-site time will speed no end. I think that's going to be some of the future for us.
I can understand where you're on site and you're building it and you're actually putting it together and the building is taking shape. But if you are literally putting it together 50 miles away and then you have to transport it, that's what I'm trying to figure out. What are the advantages?
Yeah, so look, typically every component you're going to build on a construction site has to be transported there anyway. So depending on where your production facility is, there's probably no net gain or loss in transport. So the benefits come to the quality of the product, in that it's built in a much more controlled environment rather than out on a construction site, possibly out in inclement weather or poor lighting or all the issues that might cause quality issues. Health and safety will be a massive benefit as well, in that you're having people working in a better controlled environment so that they're not walking across rough sites or sites where, go up and down scaffolding to the same extent, or excavations, or just working in a more suitable location to carry out somebody's works. And then I think you also have the benefit of the install time frame, so the amount of time you're on site will reduce drastically as well, and that's a great benefit to the people who are there, that you don't have to have people driving the countryside to go to the construction sites, and similarly to the customers, that you're not disrupting or impacting on people in the way that you might if you're building everything on a site. The efficiency, the safety, the quality, all those things then obviously can lead to commercial benefits as well.
Do you think that there is an acceptance of this in Ireland or a resistance?
I think we're getting there. I've certainly come across resistance in Ireland and indeed in the UK as well when it comes to things like precast concrete over in situ concrete. Some people do have a resistance to that. It's certainly changing, and it's becoming more and more the norm. But there are still certain clients, certain people who still are like the old way, and I think there's an awful lot of that in construction that, well, let's just stay with the try and trust it because it works, and we don't really like change. So there's certainly an element of that, and I think as a society we need to move another little bit with that and allow the new innovative ways to advance.
And how do you get this across to people? How do you convince them?
I suppose the first thing people always look for are references, So the first time is always the challenge. So you have to build pilot projects, you have to do pilots and basically try to convince them to say, well, this is one we've prepared and this is how it works. And there'll be an element of some people taking a chance on the first one. But the more we go with this, the more people will believe in the whole, the offsite or the modular or the, doing things a little bit differently. And I think it's growing as a concept within the industry.
Have you had a situation where you are there as an engineer and you've come up with a brilliant solution to a problem, but you're trying to explain to the client that this is new and they are going to be the pilot? And they're kind of going, well, give me a reference. And you go, well, I can't because you're the pilot. How does it, have you had an experience like that?
Yeah, we have quite a few. There's on a lot of projects we'll have that. We'll try and introduce, and it might be just some new product, but yet clients will say, well, this is what I specified, so this is kind of what I want. And it's understandable as well, they mightn't want to take the risk, they just want their project to work. So you can see why there is a bit of reticence in accepting all of these new technologies. And, arguably they don't all work either. So it is understandable. So I think clients probably need to just be a little bit more open to reviewing it in a little bit more detail. Sometimes it's a very quick no, whereas it possibly should be a little bit, okay, let's have a proper look at this and see will it work.
And is a lot of it down to personal relationships and the length of the relationship and building up trust?
There's always an element of that for sure, and if you have a trusting relationship with somebody, which is huge in any business, but for us having that relationship and a proper collaborative type relationship is really, really important, because if you're meeting strangers, they're less likely to accept something that's going to be a little bit different. So you do need to have strong relationships with people, and that's why I think, having that repeat business is important to help you get stuff over the line.
Coffey is a very innovative company, and you're involved in a lot of very exciting things at the moment. Where do you see civil engineering going in the future?
I think civil engineering will be huge. I mean, it has to be. I mean, it's across all of the sectors we need to continue to invest in. We talk about housing and transport and energy, and civil engineering is the backbone of a lot of all of those things. All the infrastructure that's needed. So as we have a growing and changing population in society, civil engineering projects will be absolutely required. We'll need to continue to develop our infrastructure to keep up with that population growth and societal demands.
And what kind of projects then are Coffey working on at the moment in order to do that?
We do a lot in the water space, so water, wastewater treatment, water infrastructure, there's reservoirs, pipelines, and we're doing some obviously transport projects and the like, and some of those projects are typically, client driven in that they decide what they want and we can build them. Where we are looking at things ourselves is from an energy point of view, where things like how we'll use hydrogen and as a society and how we can help in terms of some of the aspects of that. So there's certainly something there and around the whole climate side and the renewable energy. I mean, we're looking at the sites we operate and seeing how we can make those more energy efficient and how we can use renewable energy to help with those operation sites, because energy is the biggest element of a site when you're operating a treatment plant. So that's significant.
And where do you see hydrogen being used?
I actually think hydrogen is a huge opportunity for Ireland. We have a huge opportunity to produce and potentially export. We're not a big industrial country. So from a demand point of view, we don't have a huge demand there. We do obviously in transport, so buses and trucks and the like is the obvious one, but it's a fuel which can be stored. So we talk about what happens when the wind turbines, when the wind isn't blowing. So I think hydrogen can help there, but also I think it's an export opportunity. Into places like Germany and that where they don't have the wind power that we have from the Atlantic Ocean. There's an opportunity there, and we talk about the green hydrogen, which is obviously offshore wind to produce hydrogen, and I think that's where I think we can have a huge benefit there.
And then, as a company, then what's the biggest challenge that you are facing at the moment?
The biggest challenge at the moment, to be honest, is resource. So trying to get the people to do all the work that our customers want. So as an industry, construction and the recession is very fresh in everybody's mind still. And so if a lot of parents perhaps out there maybe saying, don't go into construction, you mightn't have a job in a few years. But I think it can be a really, really sustainable industry. And I think we do struggle to try and get engineers and trades, apprentices. We try to take on a lot of apprentices, do a lot of work going out to schools, participate in Engineers Week with Engineers Ireland and things like that, trying to sell the engineering brand, if you like, and trying to encourage young people into construction and engineering. And it's tough because we're competing with, a lot of the foreign direct investment companies in Ireland and the big pharmaceuticals and the tech companies. They probably seem much more attractive to young school kids now. So it's important that we can try and sell construction and engineering as a sustainable industry as well, where people can have a good career out of it. And I absolutely believe they can. So yeah, that's probably our biggest challenge right now. We could do more if we had more.
And once you have people involved in the company, do you find it easy to retain staff?
No, we don't. I think it's, again, due to the location and stuff. We've got construction sites all over the place. People don't generally want to travel as much anymore. I know when I came out of college, I was delighted to move on to a different town every so often. It was part of the experience, and I don't think it kind of happens as much anymore. So yeah, so from that point of view, it can be challenging. At Coffey, we've been trying to do a lot to retain our people and put people first in everything we're trying to do. But it's attracting them in the first instance is a challenge, and retaining is also a challenge. Yeah.
When you say keeping people, because I thought it was interesting that one of the things that Coffey seems to be proud of is a directly employed workforce. What is the advantage for the workforce being directly employed as opposed to being a contractor?
For us to deliver projects, having that directly employed workforce means that we can control the production of the work, control the safety, control the quality an awful lot better with our own people. We've got a lot of people who are with us 20 years plus, in the business, and there's obviously a strong loyalty there from the company to the people and the people to the company, which is fantastic. And we like to try and use that to bring more kind of younger people through and get the training and experience from those more senior people in the business. And so we like to have that self-deliver resource capability. And it gives us as a business then a greater understanding of what's actually involved in the work. Sometimes with subcontractors, we can leave them to do their work and not fully understand it. So we like to, work with our people to try and help improve everything we're doing.
And when you're trying to get people involved in the engineering business, what's your pitch when you're out talking to the parents of kids who are kind of wondering, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of different aspects of it. I suppose if you're looking at the people trying to convince people to go into the trades, I mean, the trades are, we used to call the wet trades, like the block laying and the plastering, and I think they're tough to try and convince people going into the likes of those ones. But carpentry was always a good one. But mechanical and electrical now are really, really good trades to go into. People can build really, really good careers, and not just necessarily in construction, but when you go into any manufacturing environment, there's mechanical and electrical trades in there as well. So there's a huge opportunity, I think, for anybody going into those kind of trades, and they can become quite specialist. We're involved in a couple ourselves in developing some of the training courses even, and pipe laying and things like that, but they can get quite technical when you go down into the detail of what you need to do. You're teaching people some really, really good skills that can be transferred to different industries and can help people travel around the world as well if they so choose. So it gives them that option. They're skills that there will always be work for. So from a trades point of view, I think it's a fantastic set of skills to learn and an ability for people to go down that road. From an engineering point of view, then people who are engineers they're problem solvers, and I've seen lots of engineers and people who were in my own class in college have come out of engineering, and they're high up in other businesses and other sectors because they've got that problem solving ability and being able to manage people, and because you get that experience of managing people from a young age. So there's a huge market there, and engineering is very diverse in terms of what you can get into. There's lots of opportunities.
Let me wrap up by asking you about Engineers Ireland. What would you say is one of the most useful things that you have gotten personally from being a member of Engineers Ireland?
I think the CPD has been great. I think also the kind of networking opportunities you have within Engineers Ireland is very good as well. And then they have the professional titles, I think, and that's really important. That gives you the recognition internationally. Being a chartered engineer is a fantastic title, and that is something that is recognized internationally. So again, for people who do decide to travel, and often people do, having that chartered engineer status is and title is really, really important. So I think they're the big things that Engineers Ireland do really, really well.
Can you give me a specific example of something that Engineers Ireland did for you that pushed your career forward?
I think it's that. I mean, I did get a lot of encouragement to go and do that chartership, and I think that's quite positive. And I think I know it helped me, here in my own career, even within Coffey. At that time, I think clients used to look for chartered engineers to lead their projects, and so being able to have that on my CV was important for Coffey to put forward and put names forward. So that has helped. Yeah.
Odran Madden, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for taking the time out to chat with us today.
Thanks very much, Dusty.
If you'd like to find out more about what we spoke about on the podcast today, you'll find notes and link details in the show notes or description area of our podcast on your player right now. And of course, you'll find more information and advanced episodes on our website at engineersireland.ie. Our podcast today was produced by dustpod.io for Engineers Ireland. And if you'd like more, do click the follow button on your podcast player so you get access to all of our past and indeed all our future podcasts automatically. Until next time, thank you so much for listening.